Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. I am Miss Jenny and I am your astrologer. Today's video, we're going to take just a brief walk through the event chart for the January 6th hearings to see if we can determine what potential outcomes may come from this. Now understand two things. One, when we talk about potential outcomes, there are multiple people involved. So when we say potential outcomes, we mean this in a very broad and general sense. And also, we're looking at this event chart using ancient rules, but we're applying it to modern situations, which didn't exist back then. So we have to allow some latitude here for a learning curve. We're all learning as we go along. For those of you who are looking for the chart, it will be at the end of the video. For those of you who have access to chart software, because you're an astrologer, or you have access to AstroDance on the internet, and you want to pull up the chart and follow along, the time the chart is set up for is June 9th, 2022 at 8 p.m. in Washington, D.C. I have 13 degrees Sagittarius rising and 1 degree Libra on the midheaven. We are using the Placidus house system. Okay, so let's kind of get through this as best we can. So the first thing that's going to jump out at you when you look at this chart is a grand trine in air. And the moon, which is part of this grand trine, is sitting in literally at the top of the chart in a cardinal house in the 10th house of public perception. This is extremely important in this particular situation because these things are all defined by the situations and circumstances that the chart is read in, all right? The moon represents the populace and the community and the people at large. It's the audience. One of the things you'll find often, interestingly enough, with comedians, you'll find very prominent moons, very prominent, well-supported moons in their charts, because they need to be held, especially when you're talking about comedy, you really need to be able to have a connection with your audience or the public at large, and that is the moon. The moon at the top of this chart represents a very visible, very intimately connected audience to this particular event, and it certainly is. Apparently, the numbers for the number of people who watched the first broadcast of the hearing, the first part of the broadcast, was just through the reviews. It exceeded their expectations. So this is, in fact, playing out to be deeply personal for a lot of people. Now, that moon is part of this grand trine. So the moon trines, wait for it, ready? Trines Saturn and the sun. This is extremely important. So the moon trines Saturn with the moon trine sun, this trio all together. We're taking that soul lunar, that sun moon energy, and we're linking it to Saturn in a situation where, like in this particular instance, being organized, being thorough, having integrity, and doing it by the book, playing by the rules, doing it the right way, especially where principle and leadership is involved, is absolutely the most important thing and the most visible thing that will be seen with this particular combination with the sun, moon, Saturn together in a grand trine. Not only are they, according to the chart, not only are they on the mark, like they're literally on all points, but they are hitting it out of the ballpark. So this is why I was saying earlier, like their aim is true. They've done it. Whatever it is they intended to do, and the reasons that they broadcast this instead of keeping it not so visible to the public, like most hearings, because people typically don't pay attention. Whatever their reasons for doing it, they've hit it out of the ballpark as far as achieving their goals. Now, what their goals are is a whole other conversation, but we suspect that a lot of this has to do with putting an end to this nonsense, so we never have to go through this again. I don't know about you, but I enjoy living in a first world country and a democracy and not living under, dictator rule or dealing with hateful people like all the time. There's enough of that in life. Just saying. Okay, so now, what's also interesting about this grand trine configuration in air also rules ideas and communications, and that's absolutely what this hearing is about. Ideas and communications, and ideals with an L, ideals. The moon in this chart, the most prominent planet in this chart and connected to this grand trine, is also conjunct the trans-Neptunian Zeus. Zeus is a trans-Neptunian that symbolizes or represents power and leadership, right? And authority, because Zeus, the Greek god, was the god of all the gods, right? So there's a tremendous amount of power and directional leadership with this event. So the thing to understand, or the way I would interpret this, is with a Moon Zeus conjunction together in the 10th house, setting up a grand trine with the Sun and Saturn. This is the tipping point. This is the thing that will change the course of the future. It's pretty ominous, right? But remember, it's a grand trine, so for all intents and purposes, there should be good, positive results from this. And I suppose, being positive, I suppose, depends on which side of the equation you're on, right? No, it's a necessary evil, and there will be important positive things that come out of this. Okay, now, so one of the things to remember when we talked about this, the ascendant is not the ascendant. The ascendant is always an indication of what the chart ruler is in a chart. So Sagittarius is the ascendant, Jupiter is the chart ruler. So we're going to look at the chart ruler to see what it's doing in this chart and if that can tell us anything. Well, baby cakes. The chart ruler is Jupiter in Aries, and it is conjunct that 4th house, opposing the midheaven. So what this indicates is, again, an emphasis on visibility and importance and breaking ground. Now, in some schools, they might say, well, Jupiter's on the cusp of the 4th house, so this is about, land and property and the nation, and that would be true. But also, too, remember, it's combinations of things, right? So when we take Jupiter on that imium coeli, the 4th house cusp, and we include the midheaven, which is really what we need to include in this particular case because it's a very visible part of the chart. We've got Jupiter, which is the chart ruler, on the ascendant midheaven. So this would indicate that this event is very much about being very visible and also charting new territory, like literally charting a whole new course for the benefit and protection, of the underdog, the lesser people, the smaller people, the common man. And the reason for that is because Jupiter in Aries on the angles is also an indication of a champion, someone who will champion the less fortunate or the more vulnerable. So that's a very promising thing, because we have all had enough of being lied to. That is for sure. Oh my God. Okay. So some other things that we're looking at with this chart. Now, Mars is in the 4th house, which rules the foundations of matters, the roots of an issue, the ground you're standing on. Like, do you even have solid ground to stand on, right? Well, Mars is conjunct the part of fortune in that 4th house, also in Aries. So again, champions and bravery and starting whole new things, right? Literally breaking ground and entering territories that we've never been in before. That's Mars in Aries. It is the scout, the lead, the points lead, the person who goes out ahead of everybody else to see what's out there, the explorer, Lewis and Clark, kind of thing. With Mars conjunct the part of fortune, there's a lot of benefit and protection here. So we can expect some really fruitful outcomes from these hearings, which we also like. Now, we also have, before I get into the hard aspects, we also have a trine from Mercury to Pluto. Now remember, Mercury, as we speak, and as of today is the 14th, Mercury is in the degree of the Weeping Sisters. Oh yeah. And it's been there for at least a couple of days. So Mercury at 27 degrees has moved off of Algol, still kind of there, but moving off of it, but like shuffling right along into the degree of the Weeping Sisters, which guarantees that it's going to be sensitive, really sensitive, big sore spots being poked, right? Poke kind of thing. And we're seeing it. We are seeing it. People are the exact people we expected to be the most disturbed and embarrassed that they supported this man, and literally from hearing from his own crew, like, tell the truth, which is that basically he took advantage of his followers. Literally, he grifted, lied, conned, and took advantage of his followers for no reason except to benefit himself. Now, some of his more diehard followers, struggling with the embarrassment and humiliation that they were diehard supporters of a person who took advantage of them shamelessly. And there's no denying it now. They're looking for people to hurt and to put down, because they're desperately trying to reclaim some dignity from these situations, which of course, yeah, not going to happen. Too late for that. That ship has sailed, honey. But we're seeing it. We are seeing it. So they're trying to take all their frustration and embarrassment and anger out on easy targets. Which again, I would say, when people are going after easy targets, that says a lot about the person and their aim. So, go figure, right? Instead of going after the person who hurt you, you're going after everybody else, because that makes all kinds of sense. Anyway, so also too, Chiron. Now here's what I thought was interesting and beautiful. Mars and the part of fortune are conjunct Chiron in Aries down here in the 4th house. Now one of the things that we know is that that administration and this country and the things that we're dealing with right now have a lot to do with old pains, and a lot to do with manhood and domination, and our definitions of manhood and domination, and also, you know, our definitions of class systems and who benefits and who doesn't, the haves and have-nots, because it's all about power, right? You know, me first, me, mine, me. So Aries is very selfish, and Aries is not the only. There's a couple of signs that are selfish, more than others, or more shamelessly than others. So with all this Aries emphasis, what you get are people who are very male dominant identified, in this particular case, and for decades, hundreds and thousands of years now, in all the wrong ways. Because it has been a situation that has not allowed men to grow and express the fullness of their humanity. It has not allowed them to be people. They all have to be these caricatures of Rambo, in and out of their private lives. That's not healthy, you know. And, you know, it's gotten to the point now where these phallic symbols, you know, that these guys are buying and shooting up the place. Literally, it's a form of psychological rape, because they're literally shooting their AR-15 load all over everybody, whether they want it or not, which unfortunately is resulting in death. So for a momentary feeling of power, they're killing a lot of innocent people. And again, if you're going after easy targets, it says a lot about you and your aim, you know, and your character. So, Mars, part of fortune, and Chiron together in Aries, very close together down in the 4th house, which is the root or the foundation of the matter, indicates that this hearing could be and should be the catalyst for major quantum healing and change. So the outcome from these hearings may very well be that it sets us on the path to finally, you know, doing a cleanup in aisle 5 and getting past this stuff and really being able to heal and start the healing process from all this toxic, cancerous vitriol, you know, and classist divisions and manipulation, you know, and lying. Jesus, aren't we all tired of being lied to? It's going to finally start that healing process. We can break through and break free of it and move on to healthier places and ways of living. I'm very optimistic about this. You got to hang on to it, because if you don't hang on to it, what else do you have, right? There's not enough whiskey in the world to make you feel better without hanging on to some kind of optimism. Okay. Right, Mercury. So Mercury is trining Pluto. Mercury's leaving Algol. It's approaching the degree of the Weeping Sisters. Oh, fun days ahead. The good thing, though, is Mercury is trining Pluto, which is allowing us deep psychotherapeutic work, you know, as a process, whether we realize we're going through it or not. And that, in conjunction with that Mars Chiron part of fortune I just described, is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Like, literally, this is the world's best, biggest mass psychoanalysis possible. And because there's a trine involved with Mercury and Pluto, it won't be nearly as difficult and painful and disruptive as it could be otherwise. So no matter how bad it gets, just remember, this process of healing and psychotherapy we're all going through right now could be a lot more painful and disruptive. And if you know anybody who's ever been through therapy, that has had a breakthrough, right? The crisis before the breakthrough can be, messy, really messy. So count your lucky stars. Count your lucky stars. We've got a lot of support and a lot of ease involved in this. Thank God. Okay, you know. So there's that. Now, also, Venus, Uranus, and Pallas Athene, the asteroid Pallas Athene, are all conjunct in the fifth house. Now, I'm not completely sure what to do with the fifth house in this particular situation, so we may or may not come back to that. But what we do know is, and here's the thing, right? So Venus represents our values and our value systems, and also our finances and our wealth. The thing to remember about Venus is that among the many things that Venus represents, which include relationships and art and beauty and pleasure, as well as money, right? And money buys you those things. Venus ultimately, like the sign Taurus, represents our value systems. And remember, we've got Taurus Scorpio eclipses happening all year long. So globally, we're all going through massive reevaluations and shakeups where our priorities and values actually are, right? Because the idea is that if you're in a solid place and you've got the right values and the right priorities, you're not going to be too overwhelmingly impacted by this. You'll recover from whatever happens. If you don't, you will have not only a massive disruption in your life, but you won't recover from it. So get your mind right. So Venus represents our values and our resources, okay? Venus conjunct Uranus indicates, again, major explosive, unexpected truth bombs, because Uranus is the planet of truth and exposure, among other things. Venus and Uranus together guarantees that these hearings are going to really upset some people. And I mean, and we said it before, I mean upset people in like, oh my God, there they go. Like talk about, poking a sore spot. So we can expect some irrational responses, to whatever comes up as far as, poking the bear, or in this case, not poking the bear, but poking a sore spot, tender spot. You weren't supposed to know about that. Now, with Pallas Athene there, Pallas Athene is very exciting because Pallas Athene is the asteroid goddess of not only wisdom, but law and feminism and arts and crafts of all things, right? Pallas Athene was a pretty badass goddess. So Pallas Athene is also a champion for the underdog. So Pallas Athene here with Venus and Uranus would indicate that this is very much going to involve the law or resulting changes in the law. There may be major sweeping reforms because Mercury, Pluto trine, and Venus, Uranus, Pallas Athene. There may be sweeping reforms as far as laws or legalities go after this that will be for the best and the better, but still, I mean, it will be uncomfortable for sure. Well, for some people. Pallas Athene with Venus and Uranus also guarantees that it will be the unvarnished truth. There will be no, because we are also tired of being lied to. There will be no embellishment. There will be no goosing the truth. There will be no fluffing things to make them more palatable. None of that. I mean, it will be very straight to the heart of the matter, like with a spear. And unvarnished, like absolutely cut dry, like this is it, deal with it. There is no chaser to wash this down with. This is what you get, right? And it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've ever in your personal life dealt with people where they have offered you the unvarnished truth, or you have been a little too uncomfortably honest with other people about something that they're sensitive about, like we all know this does not go well. It usually ends okay, but man, oh my God, wow. People want the truth, but they don't want the truth like that. Like, could you just make it a little softer, please? Or maybe just a little slower on the ascent here. So it's the same thing, except in this is like, blah, right? There it is. Deal with it. Like that's, this is what this is with Venus, Uranus, and Pallas. So the good news is that it's unvarnished. There is no manipulation or goosing or fluffing or bending this thing to make it palatable or leaving things out, sins of omission, all that the nonsense that especially politicians typically play. Like you got to know politicians typically have strong, at least in these last few administrations, have really strong Gemini in their chart. They're lawyers, right? Most of them. So they love words. They love word play. Everything's about the word, the right word, the exact wording. Right? So naturally, if you've got lawyers who become politicians or politicians with legal backgrounds, which they would, you're going to have people who are absolutely like invested as their first go-to behavior or response is wordplay, right? Playing with words, manipulating words. Well, I never said that. I said this. It only sounded like that. We get a lot of that, and we've been getting a lot of that for a long time. People playing games with words and images and trying, you know what I mean, just manipulating, right? You know, lies, lies, all lies. But I needed to hear this probably more than you guys did. This Venus-Uranus Pallas-Athene conjunction in that fifth house indicates that the truth bombs will land, and they will land squarely. More than that, that grand trine with Moon, Sun, Saturn means that not only will this truth be unvarnished, it will not be embellished. It will be served straight, no chaser, and in a thorough, not heated, passionate, emotionally charged way. It will literally be like the old, way old TV show about a police detective. I can't remember what the name is. Where the one detective is talking. They always show the little trailer for it, and the detective is always talking to whoever the victim for the episode is. Nope. The facts, ma'am. Just the facts. So this is kind of what we've got on board for these series of hearings. I'm very excited about this because if nothing else, it's going to be a relief to not A, be lied to, and B, to have facts offered in a non-emotionally charged way where people are not trying to whip other people up. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Whew. Like literally like a drink of cold water on a hot day. I'm all about it. So look for progress, look for major progress, and a whole lot of hurt feelings to get tender spots touched during this hearing. It will be good. They will get over it. Many people will get over this. There will be a few holdouts, who, we're just ride and die, right up over the cliff right now, and they're realizing that they're being a ride and die for this administration. Literally is taking them off the cliff. So literally, like the Pied Piper, like do playing his pipe and leading the rats out to sea. Except they're the rats. They're ending up in the sea, and he's going to be, okay by comparison. In theory, it's not over yet. Okay, now some of the more challenging things in here is that we do have a Sun-Neptune square, right? Now the Sun is part of this grand trine, which is great. We love that. But the Sun is also squaring Neptune. Now this can play out in a couple of different ways. So, the old typical saw is, Sun square Neptune, confusion, manipulation, lying, disorganization, blah, like all the bad stuff. Which isn't to say that that's not applicable in most situations. But, my friends, I want to give you another way to look at this and consider this for a moment. Neptune rules film, video, images, media, right? Art, music. Neptune rules things that involve storytelling, okay? This hearing is being broadcast on national television, and it has been curated and organized in such a way that it's easier to sit through and watch, because typically a hearing is so dry. Oh dear God, it is so dry, and it is so hard to listen to. Literally, there are college professors that put their students to sleep in the first 5 minutes. Their material is so dry and boring that are exciting compared to a Senate hearing, right? Oh my God, you've got to be some kind of Saturn person to be able to sit through some of that. So what they've done is they've put this information, they haven't changed any of the facts, they haven't made any lies or manipulated any information, but what they have done is organized this and combined images, media. They're doing a multimedia presentation in a way that tells a story or shows us a timeline, which is a story, right? Your life is a timeline, and your life is your life story. But they're doing it in such a way that the average person who doesn't typically sit through this stuff, who doesn't have a legal background and typically reads pages and pages and pages of dry material, making it easier for us to get through and sit through as well. So that's your Neptune. Now, we would say that a Sun-Neptune square, well, what, isn't that a square? That's bad. Maybe. Squares exaggerate. They emphasize and exaggerate, so that Sun square Neptune could easily exaggerate and amplify, confusion and some manipulation and disorganization or potential lies. But everything else in the chart does not say that. So what we could also say or see with this Sun-Neptune square is that, one, There's going to be more emphasis on the use of media and images, right? Audio and visual images, telling a story, crafting a story, using the media to your advantage to tell a story or to show a timeline. We can see that as being very emphasized, right? Because, I mean, honestly, it could be a regular senatorial hearing, which I don't know about you, but I'd get through about 5 minutes of that before I'd fall asleep or get a headache. So it's good, right? Now, the other thing, if we wanted to go down the route of, well, maybe it's bad, I don't know. It is possible. It is possible that there are some things that are connected to, but not directly involved in different components of this hearing that are being hidden or not brought as close to the surface for visibility as possible. But I would tell you, pay attention, because Venus Uranus Pallas, Venus Uranus in particular, truth bombs everywhere, and there will be things revealed that they may not even realize they're revealing. So there's some stuff in here that's going to come out, because you can't separate it from fact and truth without manipulating fact and truth. Like, you'd have to cut parts of sins of omission, and they can't do that. So there are some things that may come up where literally whoever's paying attention go, wait a minute, but hang on, and then go down a different path to learn more about that one particular little detail that came up in association with something else, which leads us to a whole other stuff that they were trying to downplay. So that is entirely possible. And if that happens, that's going to be with our leadership. Oh, sorry, here. That's going to be with our leadership, our current leadership. And that's not necessarily a happy thought either. So we know. Oh my God, I look like a crazy person. I am so sorry. Jeez, like, last you want to do is watch me play with my hair. Okay, so we know that the Biden administration is not doing very well for a number of reasons. And I'm going to do this, then we're going to go back to chart. What we also know is that Biden has a son who is, dear God. Now, I looked at, on a while time, I was looking at the chart, and it led me to start thinking about Biden. There's something in there that triggered me thinking about Biden and Biden's son, Hunter. So I've looked at the charts for those two, and that's actually going to be a whole separate video about Joe and Hunter. Specifically about parent-child relationships in astrology. It's not going to be about their politics or their leadership abilities or, anything like that. I mean, it's going to come up because that's what they're doing for a living. But ultimately, those two is an examination of parent-child relationships through the lens of astrology, because it's interesting, very interesting. Anyway, so yeah, so that came up. So there may be something associated with Joe and or Hunter that they may be trying to downplay, not hide, just downplay. Or it could be someone else. It could be the other leadership in Congress. And Lord knows there's a lot of them that really are running scared right now because, man, their stuff's about to be all out there, all their business out there for the world to see, and it's not good. So don't fixate on Biden, because we got a lot of leadership, in Congress, and it could be any one of them that for whatever reason this hearing is trying to downplay that. Maybe because they're just trying to focus on one thing at a time, which is good. But you watch and see if other unexpected things don't pop out of this before this is over. But the good news, and we all need good news right now, the good news that you want to keep in your mind is that we are heading in the right direction. We are heading to a place where we can make meaningful course corrections and reforms. The game is over. The game is over on so many levels, and we are getting there. So hang on to that. The literal definition of how these things play out is not nearly as important as the fact that we are getting there, we're heading in the right direction, and we're about to hit a turning point where we can actually make some meaningful course corrections in our nation, in terms of addressing all of these things that allowed this situation to exist. Okay. And what else we have here? So we've covered everything in the chart. Now, some other hard aspects along with that square, Sun-Neptune square. Now, we also do have a Mercury-Saturn square, right? That's not fun. Mercury's in Taurus, Saturn's in Aquarius. So what I would say about this is, one, again, sore spots, hitting some major sore spots here. And that's just kind of a given. But the other thing is, with that Mercury Saturn square, like there is an absolute extreme demand for sticking to known facts, being absolutely sure of what you're saying, right? And being, again, playing by the rules, being organized, being extremely fact-based, neutral, no emotion, and doing it right. Getting it right is extremely important at this time. And it's going to hit a lot of really tender points for a whole lot of people. Now, so of course now the question is, and we're going to finish up the video, right? It's like, is anything good coming of this? I don't know. I think so. I think it's good, and I think it's very important that all of you pay attention to these hearings. If you can't watch the whole thing and you're like me and you have to catch it in pieces, but definitely, if you've got the time, this is so very important, because this is not about, listen, this is not about our life. This is not about us. This is about our kids and our grandkids. And what kind of government and society that we're going to leave behind for them, right? So corrupt governments and hateful societies are not okay. Never okay. They've never been okay. They're always very destructive. And at the end of the day, you can't stop the future, right? So all we can do is try to safeguard what we can to create some sort of protection and vehicle for the generations behind us, so that when they're dealing with their stuff, and every generation's got their own unique imprint that they're dealing with. They've got their own unique karmic cross that they're bearing. When they're dealing with theirs, they'll at least have this in place to prevent unethical people from taking advantage of loopholes and weaknesses in a system to exploit and hurt other people for their own personal advantage. So I'm just saying, look at the big picture. It's not the world you want to live in. It's about mechanisms and structures put in place to prevent shameless exploitation of your children and grandchildren from happening again. Okay. So, where are we? I believe that is it. We are good. So that is, my friend, the report for this hearing. I have good feelings about this. As always, I could be wrong, but I'm going to err on the side of optimism and confidence, because I really, really believe that they hit this one right out of the park, and don't even realize it. But more important, for those of you who are lovers of little secrets, more important, or as important, there are things that are going to come out of this hearing that are associated with the characters and players in the hearing, associated, not directly involved, that will be exposed, little telltale things that are going to blow open investigations into other things later. So a whole bunch of people are going to be caught with their behinds hanging out. All right. So that is it, my friends. That is my take on the January 6th hearings. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Also, I want to kind of give you two things. Because if you're watching this video about the hearings, you clearly are watching world events, and these things matter to you, right? More than fluffy bunny astrology, about your Venus love life. So the first thing is there was a study done. I think it was in Baltimore. They did a thing where they had like literally just a whole bunch of people, like hundreds of people, meditate at the same time on the same day for like an hour as an experiment. And because the idea is that if we can raise the vibration or soften the vibration, we should theoretically be able to impact, like ripples from a stone being thrown in the pond. We should be able to impact in ripples people around us, right? So when we are centered and calm and our mind's in the right place, we should, in theory, be able to, like ripples moving out, affect everyone else around us. So they did this experiment to see what would happen. And interestingly, because it's documented, one of the things that they discovered was that during that hour, there was a dramatic reduction in violent crime in the city. Yeah, that was pretty exciting. And all these people do is meditate. They didn't visualize world peace. They didn't, do mantras. They didn't do vision boards. They didn't do, pray. They didn't do anything. They just meditated. They just meditated and brought themselves up to a higher, more clean vibration that was softer, right? And like ripples on a pond, that energy from them went out because there were so many of them doing it at the same time. That energy went out and affected the community around them and dramatically reduced the incidences of violent crime at that time. That was pretty impressive. I will put the link for the article below. It's very important. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I know I have. It's been a struggle, man. It's been a struggle. I thought with the new administration things would get easier. And they have. There's certainly less, there's a lot less noise out there, but man, it's always something new now. And it's been a struggle for me. So hence, I'm just now getting around to doing this video on Tuesday because it took me that long to pull myself together. So meditate. Give yourself that moment to meditate. Also, and understand that meditation is not a religious thing. It's not a spiritual thing. Meditation is literally rebooting the circuitry in your brain. Your brain is just a big tangle of wiring, like neural wiring. It's literally just a big, it's a computer. There's a giant tangle of neural wiring in your brain. It's an electrical system up there. When your brain fires, it looks like an electrical storm. It's amazing. So when we meditate, this is not about religion. This is not about spirituality. This is not about any of those things. It's literally about shutting down and rebooting the system, rebooting the nervous system, starting with the biggest part of our nervous system up here, our brain. The other thing that I want to give you about that is this, and I want you to really embrace this. So for those of you who believe that your mind can create reality, and if you have ever made a vision board, done mantras, chanted, visualized, done these exercises where you're like writing to your future self. If you've ever done any of these things because you believe or you want to believe that your mind can create reality in the future, that you can draw and manifest to you miracles and material things. If you honestly believe these things, and you do, if you've done those things, you want to believe that. Here's the thing I would give you. The reason meditation is so important is you are learning to control your mind. And if you've ever tried to meditate for more than 30, 60 seconds, you know how hard it is to get your brain to stop. So in meditation, we are teaching ourselves a discipline, and that discipline is controlling our mind, being able to control our thoughts rather than having our thoughts control us. This is not the same thing as zoning out when you're washing dishes or taking a walk or vacuuming the floor. Like, anybody who tells you that stuff clearly doesn't actually meditate. Meditation is literally the process of getting still physically and mentally, right? Keep being so hyper-focused that you are mastering the ability to shut your thoughts down so that you control your thoughts rather than your thoughts controlling you. If you can focus on just your breathing, right? The in and the out of your breath, and not allowing the thoughts that will instantly start running through your head about everything, not letting those thoughts run away with you and distract you from your breathing, then you're doing something. And with time and practice, you would eventually be good enough that you can literally get into just a silent stillness in your head where there are no thoughts, just nothing. Okay? And when you can do that, that's when you can do things like create miracles. All these mystical, crazy things that we hear about these monks, these Eastern monks doing, right? Because they've controlled their mind. And if you can control your mind, you can accomplish anything. If you cannot control your mind, as powerful as your mind is, you will never have access to the power that it offers you. So if you want to be able to manifest things in your life, if you want to be able to create your future with your thoughts, right? You have to learn how to harness the power of your mind, and that only happens when you can control it. And the way you learn to control it is through meditation. There is no other way. There's only one door to that territory, and it's through meditation. So I would recommend a form of meditation called Vipassana meditation. It's completely not connected to any type of religious or spiritual practice. It's literally it's a style that was developed specifically to get rid of all of that to make it just pure, absolute, simple, crystal clear meditative process. It's called Vipassana. I'll put a link for that down below. So if you're feeling a little crazy right now or you're overwhelmed, I cannot stress this enough. Learn to meditate. Start now. Even 30 or 60 seconds of practice every day, learning how to control your mind rather than your mind controlling you will make a world of difference after 30 days. And you know, the benefit is the better you get at it, the stronger you become at controlling your mind, and the more you can control that powerful mind, the more you can do with that powerful mind. So there's that. And my last thought on this video, oh man, do you guys know the story about this flood, like flooded this town, and this man climbing up onto the roof of his house and is waiting for someone to come and rescue him? So he's on the roof of his house, or I'm sorry, no, before the flood got that bad, the flooding was coming, and then of course the fire truck came by to try to take him out of there because, you know, there's a flood coming, you gotta go. Like, no, I'll be fine. God will save me. And then the waters like creeped up and started to get higher, and they moved to the second floor of his house, you know, and then the boats came by, you know, like, sir, we're here to save you. Jump in. He's like, no, my God will save me. And then, of course, the water kept rising. The flood kept rising. The water kept rising. And now the water's at the roof line. He's on top of his roof outside the house. And a helicopter comes by, right? Sir, grab the rope. We're going to save you. No, my God will save me, right? And, of course, the helicopter goes away, and he ends up drowning. You know, no surprise there. And then he finds himself at the pearly gates talking to God. Or the angels. But he's talking to somebody up there. And he's confused, and he's hurt, and he feels betrayed. Why didn't you save me? I held on with all my faith that you were going to save me, and you never came. And God, or the angel, replied, oh no, I was there. I came by when the fire truck approached. I came by when the boat approached. I came by when the helicopter approached. I've been there trying to rescue you all this time, and you kept refusing me because I wasn't what you expected me to be, right? So the reason I bring this story, it's a really good story, you should look it up. It's probably told better by other people. But the reason I bring this up is that there are a lot of people now who are succumbing to this dystopian, nihilistic fantasy that it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It is climate change. It could be the end of the world if y'all keep mucking around doing nothing about it. But at the end of the day, this is not God punishing the wicked. This is climate change. This is something we've done to ourselves. And just like the fire truck, the boat, and the helicopter, God has given us scientists and environmentalists and warning. And we've received warnings and tools every step of the way to stop this. We are now on the roof of the house. There will only be 1 or 2 more chances to get this right and to save ourselves. But we have to recognize that this is not some divine thing happening that's meant to be. If you believe in God and this is your thing, because this is some divinely ordained, you know, nihilistic future dystopia where we all end up dead, except, you know, the 144,000 on the special bus, you got to understand that everything we've been given, scientists, environmentalists, warning, opportunities to make legislation, to make a difference, all these things, activists, God's been trying to give us every opportunity to save ourselves. It is up to us to recognize who he's sending. So, pay attention, folks. Get active. Call your local reps. Have a little chit-chat. 5 minutes a day, all the time, frequently. Bother them. Make them explain exactly what they do. Make them tell you exactly what they've done. I got 5 minutes. Hi, I'm one of the constituents in the area. So listen, I was wondering, I'm not really sure I understand. Can you tell me again exactly what your office is responsible for? So who would I go to if I had a question or an issue about this? I see. Okay. All right, thank you. And then as soon as you have that, make a list of things you want to ask them. So what were the last things you did for this community? What did you vote on? What policies did you install? Call them back. Hi, I just talked to you a couple days ago. You know, I was thinking about it. I have a question. There's this thing, blah, 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 and I wasn't really sure what your position on it was. Can you tell me what your position on this is? They have to answer you. It's their job. That's what they're there to do. Do not for a minute let these people fool you into thinking you're powerless. If you're paying attention, you have a lot of power. So, there you go. Pay attention and do something, even if it's just asking questions. All right, folks. Talk to you later.